According to a recent Gallup poll, a record low number of Americans say that they are proud to be American. Many critics, rightfully so, blame America's education system for this demise in civic pride, as schools teach our children that America's identity is based upon irreversibly racist, misogynistic, and homophobic ideas. But I have another theory, that while young Americans are being taught what they should hate about America, most don't even understand what it means to be an American. What qualities define an American? What is the common thread that has historically held us together? I'm Julie Hartman, and this is Timeless. Hey everyone, welcome to Timeless. I hope that you're having a great week. Just a reminder to hit the subscribe button down below so that you can stay notified every time I post a Julie Noted news video or a Timeless episode. And also be sure to follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Julie R. Hartman. Now, those of you who do follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Julie R. Hartman will know that I was recently in New York City. I'm from Los Angeles. I've lived in Los Angeles with the exception of college for my whole life, but I recently ventured to the Eastern Front, as I call it, in order to see some friends and family. So I was in New York City for a few days. I love whenever I go to a different location from the one that I'm used to, I love to, as my sixth grade teacher said, look up and pay attention to the surroundings around me. One of the things that I was just thrown aback by in New York City was how much the city is decked out in pride regalia. Now, some of you may be listening going, Julie, you shouldn't have been shocked by it. A, New York City is a pretty lib city, and B, it's June. It's Pride Month, at least at the time of this recording. I'll tell you that it is June. Of course, New York City, like any other lib city, is going to be decked out in pride regalia. Well, hypothetical point taken. But I was stunned to just how prevalent it was all around the city. I mean, literally everywhere you turned, there was pride stuff confronting you, bombarding you. I mean, everywhere. I went to Rockefeller Center because I love visiting historic, storied sites. 50 flags, at a minimum, pride flags, were surrounding the perimeter of the famous ice skating rink. I went to Starbucks, big pride banner in the window. I walked through the New York Plaza or Palace. Is it Palace or Plaza? Well, Plaza is one hotel. I think it was the Palace. I just looked at Sean. Sean goes, oh, I don't know. I can answer for you now. I got my thoughts together. The Palace Hotel, though the Plaza also had a pride banner. I walked by the Palace Hotel on 52nd and Madison. There was an American flag and there was a pride flag in front of a hotel. Honestly, it would be more apt in front of a hotel to have a picture of food or a picture of a bed, something other than a pride banner. I mean, my gosh, I walked by an art gallery. There was a pride banner. I walked by a liquor store. There was wine in front of the window that they were advertising for people. You couldn't even see the logo of the line because it was all covered in pride flags. When I say everywhere, people, I truly mean everywhere. Just to give one other example, in front of Uggs, which is a shoe store, there was a big advertisement with 4 drag queens on it. Didn't even show shoes, just showed the face. It was like from the chest up of drag queens. And the advertisement was, feel heard, feel seen. I could go so many avenues with this. Today we're talking about America, what it means to be an American, and trust me, there is a connection I'm going to make between these pride flags and what it means to be an American. But just to pause for a moment and go off on a slight tangent, feel heard, feel seen. What the hell does that mean? When I am talking to someone, I know that they hear me. Like I can register that they are hearing me. Can I say I feel heard? I'm not so sure. If I'm broadcasting this right now. Those of you who are watching me, I know that I am being seen. Do I feel seen? No. It is this weird leftist, overly academicized, overly woke, nonsensical language. It so rings a bell for me because I've seen it my whole life, like intersectionality and upending and, disproportionate. All of these words, these big words, are used so much in the academic jargon. And so is this idea of feeling something, that you can feel heard, you can feel seen, you can feel things that aren't even tied to an emotion or to a feeling. You can feel a physical phenomena. I hate to say it, I'm so jaded to it now, but anyways, I was on the front of the UGG store, as if that tells you so much about the kind of shoes that UGGs is selling. I said on my Instagram as a final note before I get on to the subject of this episode, that actually that UGGs advertisement is offensive to LGBTQ consumers. You know why? It shows that UGGs doesn't think that it has to earn their business. What does that sign tell you about the merits of the product? Does it tell you how many different types of shoes UGG sells? What those shoes are made out of? No, it doesn't tell you any of that. What UGGs is showing is that it thinks that it can win over potential LGBTQ consumers by pandering and virtue signaling to them at the front of their store, even when it has nothing to do with the products that they are selling. That is an insult. If they had respect for the potential consumers, they would earn their business by selling them the product based on the merits of the product. Anyways, I digress. I was walking through New York City. I was bombarded by all of these pride symbols, and it alerted me to the different types of divisional, if you will. I mean divisional in a good way and a bad way. Divisional in that it's dividing people between different minority sects. Gay, transgender sect is a minority of the United States population, but also divisional in the sense that it is the purpose is to quite literally divide people, is to segment different portions of the population so that you don't have a common glue or through line. So I was acutely aware of this in both terms, divisional symbols. And as I walked around the city, I became more aware of them beyond just the pride ones that I noticed. I saw many Black Lives Matter flags. I actually even saw several people walking down the street wearing sweatshirts or shirts that said "Proud AAPI Woman." AAPI is Asian American Pacific Islander. There, I got it. I'm woke. Apparently, sadly, I knew it off the top of my tongue. I saw people walking down the street saying, "Proud Black Woman." I actually even saw someone wearing a pin. They were carrying a backpack, and there was a pin on their backpack saying, "Proud First Generation Graduate." So it appears, and I've talked about this on this show, I've talked about this on my show, Dennis and Julie, where I co-host this program with Dennis Prager, that people nowadays quite literally wear the uniform of their demographic or political affiliation, their race, their gender, the way that they vote. They put it on computer stickers, they put it on their backpacks, they put it out in front of the hotel that they own, or the liquor store that they own, or the art gallery that they own, or the coffee shop that they own, or the shoe store that they own. It's everywhere, this branding. And I was disgusted by it, quite frankly. I thought this is awful that so many of these divisional symbols that are supposed to be affirmative of the people who are presenting the symbols, but are really divisional and reminding us of the immutable characteristics on which we differ. It's sad that this has come to permeate American culture in the stark way that it has. But also, as I reflected on this, I realized that the thing that I dislike is also part of what makes America beautiful. It is a beautiful thing that you can walk down the street in New York and you can see a pride flag, and you can see a Black Lives Matter flag, and you can see a first generation low income pin, and you can see a Proud AAPI Woman t-shirt, and you can get in a taxi cab, as I observed, and be driven by a Muslim taxi driver. I mean, for all that the left talks about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, the United States of America is, in a good way, not in a fake pandering way, in a good way, DEI. America is diversity. We are the most diverse country on the face of the earth, not just right now at this time in world history, but at any time in world history. All of our people, think about this for a moment, this is really profound. All of our people in the United States are immigrants or descendants of immigrants. Literally all of us. White people in the United States are testaments of the diversity of the United States, because white people are descendants of German, Irish, French, etc. immigrants that came here. Obviously, Black people, Asian people, Hispanic people, Middle Eastern people, all kinds of people in the United States. You just look around. We are all a testament to the great diversity of this country, because we are a relatively new country. We were founded only about 250 years ago. People got on a boat, sailed over here, and founded this nation. We didn't just crop up by the circumstance of living on this continent. People elected to come to this nation and be inhabitants of it. That is a unique thing. That is not true of other countries. I guess the exceptions, if there are any exceptions, would be Australia. Australia was actually a British penal colony for most of its history, where the British Empire sent its prisoners, instead of housing them in prisons in Britain, they'd send them over to Australia. And certainly Australia has a vast majority immigrant population, primarily British. There are some original native populations in Australia. Canada is another example of a country where a lot of the inhabitants are immigrants, again, primarily from the British Empire. But again, even just taking those two countries, even though the vast majority of their population are British immigrants, the vast majority of their population are British immigrants. That's not true of the United States. We are really diverse. It's not majority British. It's not majority Irish or German or French or Austrian or Kenyan or Iranian or Chinese or Japanese or Korean. We are all a conglomeration, if you will, of all of those things. It's a beauty. We are diversity. We are equality. I would not say that we're equity. Equity means equality of outcomes. Equality denotes equality of opportunities. America is equality. We treat people equally regardless of their backgrounds, regardless of their circumstance. And America is inclusion. What other country can boast the ethnic, racial, gender, quite literally, gender, religious diversity that the United States can tout? We are all of those things that leftism claims to care so much about. If they really cared so much about those things, they would affirm that the United States is the definition of diversity, equality, and inclusion. But no, women's groups care as much about women as I care about beehives. They don't care a lot about women, because if they did, they would be resisting the push to have biological men, transgender women in women's sports. Black groups care little about Black people. If they did, they would be insulted by the fact that Oregon says, according to their Department of Education code, that finding one right answer in math is white supremacy. If finding one right answer in math is white supremacy, that implies that there must be something good and superior about white people, that they are the only ones who can do math competently. The irony of that is that it is actually quite racist to say that finding one answer in math is white supremacy. My point is, leftists generally, not everyone, but generally, don't care about the issues that they proclaim to care about. They care about power. They care about using women's rights or using Black rights or using whatever thing that they claim to care about as a cudgel, as a ploy to get their power. Because again, if they really cared about women and Black people and immigrants and all of the things that they claim to care about, they would be so much more supportive of the United States of America than they are, because the United States flag is the most inclusive flag to ever exist on the history of the planet. So now it brings me to this question of the episode. What does it mean to be an American? As I said, as I was walking in New York, I was both sad by and also encouraged by all of these divisional symbols. Sad in that they're divisional symbols, but encouraged that we can literally have all of, gay flags, Black flags, Asian flags, first generation flags, Muslim, all of it, mosques, synagogues, churches. We can have all of that within the same block. What other country? That is an amazing accomplishment, I have to say. But then it makes me think about, what does it mean to be an American? So we have all of these different sects, all of these different groups which affirm their group's rights, their group's identity, but there's not a huge sense of an American identity anymore. As I indicated in the introduction, I don't think many Americans really know what it means to be an American. What does it mean? I'm going to pause for a moment and I want you to think about it as you're watching or listening. If you could answer that question right now without hearing the case I'm about to give you, what would you answer? What does it mean to be an American? If you are struggling at that answer, I don't blame you, because we are not taught anymore. Our leaders don't talk about it. Our education system doesn't talk about it. So I want to talk about it. America, again, the thing that makes it so beautiful, but also the thing that is disadvantageous as far as building a robust national identity, is that America doesn't have the built-in bulwark of a homogeneous ethnic or religious populace. Having a homogeneous ethnic or religious populace does make a sense of national identity easier. What does it mean to be an Iranian? Well, it probably means to be a Persian, because the vast majority of Iranians are Persians, and it probably means that you are Muslim. Those are big, big components of what it means to be a citizen of that country. Again, what does it mean to be Chinese? Even that statement, Chinese, that is an ethnic group. Think about how many countries are based on the ethnic conglomeration of the populace. America is different in that way. You can go to Japan, live in Japan for 10 years, learn the language, become a citizen, and you will never be fully considered Japanese if you are not ethnically Japanese. You can go to France even and live there for 10 years, speak the language, become a citizen, and you will never be considered fully French. Why? Because to be French means to be French, to be ethnically French. That is different in the United States. You can come to the United States from any country in the world, and if you live here, you adopt the language, even if you don't adopt the language, honestly, that's an amazing thing too. But if you become a citizen, you will be considered fully American. Why is that? I want to answer it today. But first, just to illustrate this point about how ethnicity and religion tie so much into national identity around the world, and why it's not so big of a part of our national identity here in the United States. There are 193 countries in the world. 64 of them have flags with religious symbols on it. Those of you who watch the show know that I did a vexillology segment on the history of flags, which is so interesting. It was based on Tim Marshall's book, A Flag Worth Dying For. You can check out vexillology. Sean is correcting. Vexillology, is that not what I said, Seanzi? He's laughing. This is what men do. This is what men do to women. Patriarchy. Hashtag patriarchy. I'm sorry? And it's pronounced Mercai. Yes. I was giving a Julie Noted news segment, and I was talking about, it was on demographics, you should watch it. And I was talking about how one of the cities in Spain, Marseille, is overwhelmingly Muslim. And Sean corrected me in my ear, as he often does, as you just saw. And what did you say it was, Marseilles? Oh, it's actually Marseille. See, you so confused me, I don't even remember. Anyway, this is just to prove that Sean doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, and I wonder why I keep him around. The end.
I'm sorry, so sorry.
Is that supposed to persuade me? It's actually a beautiful song. What song is that? Okay, Brenda Lee, I'm sorry. Maybe we'll do another music segment. See how we get off on tangents on the show. Anyways, I did a vexillology, and if I'm pronouncing it wrong, I don't want to hear it. I did a flag show talking about the history and background of various flags, the designs on them, what the colors mean. Out of 193 countries in the United States, 64, that is a third, of those countries' flags have religious symbols on them. Okay? 32 Christian symbols, 21 symbols of Islam, and then 1 Jewish, which is the flag of Israel. Need I say more? I mean, that is an amazing proof right there. The flag tells you so much about the history of the country and the essence of the national identity. Here in the United States, we have 13 stripes for the 13 colonies, 50 stars for the 50 states. It's this idea of unity across state boundaries, a conglomeration of many different types of people geographically, ethnically, religiously. A third of countries have religious symbols on their flags. That shows how much a religion is tied to that country. I can also tell you that of the flags that don't have religious symbols on them, for instance, many Arab countries' flags, they have colors which denote a certain affiliation to an ethnic group. For instance, Sharif Hussein was a 20th century thinker, an Arab thinker who wanted to start this pan-Arab movement. And he designed this pan-Arab flag with, I believe, green, white, and red colors. And green, white, and red are the colors of the Jordanian flag, of many other flags, many North African flags, for instance, that are Arab majority states. And it shows you that being Arab is a huge part of that national identity. I'll read to you from several countries' constitutions or nationality statutes to show how much ethnicity and religion is tied to that country's heritage. Let's look at Kuwait. According to the nationality law, i.e. what it means for you to be a Kuwaiti citizen law of 1999, quote, a citizen must be an original Muslim by birth, or he must have converted to Islam according to the prescribed rules and procedures. The decree of nationalization, according to this Kuwaiti law, is rendered void if the naturalized person expressly renounces Islam or if he behaves in a manner as clearly indicates his intention to abandon Islam. No such statute, obviously, here in the United States. Let's look at China. Xi Jinping delivered a speech about 10 years ago after his appointment as leader of the Chinese Communist Party and chairman of the CCP's military commission. He said, quote, China's responsibility is to unite and lead people of the entire party around the country while accepting the baton of history and continuing to work for realizing the great revival of the Chinese nation, in order to let the Chinese nation stand more firmly and powerfully among all nations in the world. So it's very much tied to a Chinese ethnic identity. The Constitution of Yemen says, quote, the Republic of Yemen is an Arab, Islamic, and independent sovereign state. Need I say more? I mean, I will, but that says it right there. It also says, quote, Islam is the religion of the state. Arabic is its official language. Islamic Sharia law is the source of all legislation. Okay? You cannot. By the way, is that country a systemically racist place? Will the left call Yemen a systemically racist place? It is. It is. It is by definition systemically in the system racist because it is discriminating against races that are not Muslim and that are not Arab. Okay? But no, you would never call Yemen a systemically racist place. That's only reserved to non-systemically racist place like the United States. And then finally, as a true final example, the opening of the Iranian Constitution says, the Constitution of the Islamic Republic of Iran is a declaration of the social, cultural, political, and economic foundations of the Iranian society based on Islamic principles and norms that reflect the heartfelt desire of the Islamic community. We have a political ideal of a nation with a common faith and perspective that is an exemplary model society based on Islamic criteria. And according to the Constitution, in order to be the president of Iran, you have to be of Iranian origin, Iranian nationality, and believing in the fundamentals of the Islamic Republic of Iran and the official religion of the country, Islam. Now, we in the United States have a requirement that the president must be born in the United States, no ethnic, no religious, no racial requirement. It really is a shame how many people don't understand how extraordinary and how rare the United States is. So, if the United States is not bound together by an ethnic homogeneity or a religious homogeneity, as many countries are, what are we bound by? The answer, and it gives me chills because it is so beautiful. The answer is values. What does it mean to be American? It means that you affirm a common set of values, Judeo-Christian values to be exact, and I'm going to explain what Judeo-Christian values even denotes or means. As I said, you can be from any country, not even speak the language, come into the United States, and if you become a citizen and affirm American values, you will be considered American. Think about that. A Korean immigrant can come here and not speak any English, and you can meet this person on the street and they can say, I'm an American, and you immediately know what that means. That is a remarkable, incredible historical accomplishment. We are the only country in the world, and in the world history that was founded based on an idea of liberty, freedom, and equality, and the affirmation of objective moral standards rooted in Judeo-Christian values. We are one of the only countries on earth that was founded by people who wanted to come here and set up a state. Actually, I would say we are the only country, because in the case of Australia, people came here because they were in prison. They came against their own will. And then in Canada, it was part of the British Empire, and these British immigrants were going there as part of their imperial status. The United States literally is the only country where people of another land decided to get on a boat, come out here, and create this new country based on ideas, based on values. The Federalist Papers, although you may think that they're boring, I promise you, they are so riveting, they're so interesting, just remarkable reads. The Federalist Papers include writings of some of the founding fathers, including John Jay, James Madison, and Alexander Hamilton. They went under the name of Publius because they did not publish their real names, and these Federalist Papers were published in newspapers throughout the colonies in order to persuade people in the colonies to vote for the ratification of the Constitution. Now, what's great about the Federalist Papers, too, is that it wasn't just an overt political plea. Of course, in some cases it was. But in many cases, actually, it showed debates that the different founding fathers had with one another about certain rights that should be allocated, about the way that representation should be decided on. It showed the American people the work and effort in the debate that went into crafting this document. Nevertheless, in the first Federalist Papers, there were over 65 of them, Alexander Hamilton, under the name of Publius, writes about America, what it means to be an American. And he says, quote, "It seems to have been reserved to the people of this country by their conduct and example to decide the important question whether societies of men are really capable or not of establishing good government from reflection and choice, or whether they are forever destined to be dependent for their political constitutions on accident and force." That just synopsized far more eloquently than I said it to you, what I just said to you. America is not created by the accident or force of one's religion, one's criminal status, one's ethnicity. America is created by reflection and choice. America is an experiment to prove to people around the world, as Alexander Hamilton writes, whether or not by our conduct and example we can establish a good government. He continues, "If there is any truth in the remark, the crisis at which we are arrived may be regarded as the era in which that decision is to be made. And the wrong election, i.e. the wrong choice of whether or not we vote for this Constitution or not, will deserve to be considered the general misfortune of mankind." That last word, mankind, how spectacular. He didn't say whether or not you vote for this Constitution will be considered to be the general misfortune of the people who live in these colonies who won't get to live under the United States of America. No, he said for all mankind. He understood, as all the founding fathers understood, that America was an experiment for the world, to show the world that you can unite many different kinds of people based on values rather than accident or force. I can't, I'm sorry, I just have to pause for a moment. I can't understand why people have such hatred for this country. Have we always been perfect? Of course not. Have we made grave mistakes? Yes, certainly we have. But my God, what we have accomplished, the fact that this was written in the late 18th century, 250 years ago, during a time that was in every way so radically different from our own, that these people had the moral capability and foresight to envision a country for all mankind, for the benefit of all kinds of progeny. That is an amazing thing. I am so sad for individuals on the 4th of July and any other day of the year that don't feel such enormous, astounding, resounding pride to be a part of this great experiment. We are so lucky to have the birthright of being an American. Actually, it's not a birthright. We are lucky that we are born into being American, but we think it is our birthright. It is something that we must maintain, as I'm going to say now. The main credo of the United States of America is e pluribus unum, out of many one. You see it on the dollar bill, which I'm going to do a show on, by the way. You see it on all coins. You see it on federal buildings. E pluribus unum, out of many one. Out of many backgrounds, religions, people, ethnicities, we are one America. What makes us one America? As I said, values, Judeo-Christian values. The great thing about Judeo-Christian values, and this is kind of paradoxical, they are both so religious and so not religious. They are religious in the fact that they are believed to have been endowed by God, and they are moral codes that emanate from this one objective true source. And that's a huge, that is the entire component of it, that there are objective rules that come up from above human beings. They are not created by human beings, because if they're created by human beings, then they are subject to change and modification based on the desires of those human beings. These are objective rules and standards that are created by a source above human beings that apply to all human beings at all time, at all places on earth. These are primarily the 10 Commandments. Do not steal. Do not murder. Honor your father and mother. Do not covet. That is, do not try to take away from other people what they have rightfully earned for yourself. As I said, those are both extremely religious rules because of their origin and their equality in enforcement and applicability, but they are also, at the same time, kind of a-religious rules precisely because they apply to everyone, not just members of a select religion. But that's what it makes America, that you can be from a different religion, you can be from a different ethnicity, and if you abide by these objective, universal moral standards that apply as equally to you as they do to me, then you are an American. Other examples of Judeo-Christian values is the fact that human beings have free will, that we judge individuals based on their conduct. Of course, there are certain circumstances that may make one's upbringing harder, that may make them more inclined to have a bad life, to make bad decisions. But Judeo-Christian values affirm that human beings, the individual, is responsible for his or her own actions. They decide their fate. That is a bedrock of Americanism, of what it means to be American. That is a bedrock of our criminal system, that you deserve to be punished for the way that you treat other people because you had the free will to decide whether or not you commit that crime. That is exemplified in our economic system, that you, through your own hard work and labor and toil, can advance yourself in life by your own free will. Do you know how amazing that is? Even in modern day Europe, they have not fully shrugged the aristocratic tendencies of saying that your last name matters, the town in which you were born matters, the amount of education that you were given matters. There are still lords and heirs and heiresses in Britain. There's a certain degree of honor that is conferred upon the aristocratic class that is not conferred upon commoners. Kate Middleton, the future Queen of England, was called a commoner before she married Prince William because she was not born. Her parents actually became quite rich through their later founded business. But when she was born, her family was of middle class status, and so she was called a commoner. That is not the case in the United States. Any honor is offered, to work that is done with fidelity, dignity, and honesty. You can be a janitor, you can be a taxi driver, you can be a school teacher, you can be a TSA officer. You don't need to be a CEO of a company or a politician. And there is honor and dignity and respect to your work. You will not be called a commoner as you would be in England. Why? Because of this idea of free will, that you are working hard to determine your own fate in life by your own will rather than what you were born into. And finally, another value as part of these Judeo-Christian values that makes us American is that we affirm certain distinctions. As I said, the biggest among them being right and wrong, these objective, universal moral standards that apply to everyone at the same time, regardless of who they are. But that also applies to other distinctions, that there are men and women, and that having these two distinctions are bedrocks of the order in society. That there is such a thing as a distinction between man and animal. You know, there are all of these medically assisted suicide laws in Canada, which say that basically if you have a mental illness that you don't think can be redeemed, as long as you have the okay from two doctors that you are competent to make the decision, you can elect to have a medically assisted suicide. How is it any different from putting your dog down? Your dog may have a irredeemable illness, and you as their owner decide that the decision should be made, and then the dog is put down. That is what we are seeing in Canada now, that people can be put down no differently than animals can be put down. Historically, here in the United States, sadly it's being unraveled as of late, there is a distinction between man and animal. There's a distinction between the worth and the superiority, yes, the superiority of the human being in their value as compared to animals. There's a distinction we used to affirm between young and old, that old people had value and wisdom that they were able to impart to young people. Again, these are Judeo-Christian American values. They are moral, ethical bindings that make you an American regardless of where you were born, what language you speak, what you look like, what religion you are. That old people have wisdom to provide to us, that we should be polite and have deference to them. You know, this distinction point is actually mirrored in language. I did another Timeless episode on the origin and development of language. And one of the things that makes certain languages more sophisticated than others is the amount of distinctions that that language has. Think about the way that Native American tribes used to name people. A tribal leader would be called Bald Eagle. Bald eagle is the name of an animal, and it was a name given to a man. That doesn't affirm the distinction between man and animal. That doesn't affirm the distinction between young and old. That doesn't affirm the distinction between male and female. It was I don't even mean this as an insult, honestly. It was a primitive way of naming people. As societies became more complex and developed, their language reflected these distinctions, which primarily came from values. Distinctions create order. Lack of distinctions create chaos. American values, the distinctions that are affirmed and held in American values, create order. The unraveling of those, as we see today, we're trying to erase man and woman, we're trying to erase illegal and legal citizens, we're trying to erase holy and profane, we're trying to erase what is racist and not racist. The more that we eliminate these distinctions, the more we are unraveling as a society and becoming less American. It's all a values thing. And finally, to end, part of what makes an American American, in addition to our values, is what makes anyone a member of their own country, and that is blind pride. The United States, as I have indicated many times throughout this episode, has earned our reverence and respect by its conduct and its history. We have failed, but we are the freest, most democratic, equal society to ever exist in the history of the world. We should respect America because of her conduct. But also, as Americans, we should love and respect America because she is ours. I have a friend who's from Kenya. You know what he said to me recently? We were on the phone catching up. He said, "Julie, Kenya is the best country in the world." I totally disagree with him. I think America objectively is the best country of the world, again, by its conduct. But you know what? I love that he said that to me because it shows that he is a true citizen of his country. He has that blind pride, which is an ingredient of every national identity. He loves Kenya because it is his. He loves Kenya because he was born there. His family's from there. He's lived there for almost all of his life. Why don't we lend that same thing to America? Why don't we love America because she is ours? I know it's wrong to compare America to a teddy bear, but think about that teddy bear that you have had since you were 0 years old, that was given to you when you were just a toddler. It may look raggedy. It may have food and stains on it. It may be shelved up in one of your bookcases with dust on it in your home, but you still love that thing because it is yours. We should love America because of her conduct and because she is a part of us. That is what it means to be an American. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure to be with you. As a reminder, you can follow me at Julie R. Hartman on Instagram and Twitter to, at the very least, see that Uggs drag queen advertisement, which you will see as a reel on my Instagram page. And until then, I hope that you will be well. See you soon.